I'm going to start off my speech with a visual. This comes from TikTok, so it's very comical, and it is the situation of an interview at Utah Valley University. And the reason why I know about this is because one of my friends is in it.
Thing you've seen on the streets of Orem.
Here's the thing, we're in Utah, so there's some crazy stuff happening, like premarital kissing, premarital hand-holding.
Stop it.
I've heard rumors of people having sex. I feel like that's not true.
That you're scared. Sex isn't real. It's the scariest thing you've seen on the streets of...
So obviously this is a comical portrayal of the lack of sex education here in Utah. A journal states school-based sex education plays a vital role in the sexual health and well-being of young people. I personally have experienced the effects of minimal sexual education and stigma about talking about sex. Sex education has a direct influence on all people, especially people our age. My objective today is to convey the need for greater sex education to be established, as well as comfort in talking openly about sex. I will be talking about why the current level of sex education and conversation is a problem, tell of the cause of this problem, and illustrate what a solution might be for this issue. The main problem with ineffective sex education courses is the detrimental impacts it has on individuals. An article talks about the increase in rate of teen pregnancies, sexually transmitted illnesses in young people, and sexual violence rates that have increased steadily as years proceeded. The guidelines for sex education have not changed since 2000, which neglects current issues in sex education. In many cultures and societies, sex is considered taboo. In Utah, there is a push for abstinence until marriage, which as a focus leads to shame, blame, and guilt regarding sex. Thus, sex, which is a pleasurable and natural occurrence, is made out to be evil. So, what are the causes of these issues? An article that highlights the limits of sex education states, school-based sex education is not a neutral vesicle of knowledge transmission. It critiques sex education logic, highlighting the individualistic, neoliberal approach to sexuality that it relies on, which comes at the cost of attention to power differences, sexual agency, and sexual pleasure. What this means is that there is a lack of knowledge regarding safe sexual actions such as consent, choice in sex, and pleasure. People are not able to learn all the influences that come into play with their own sexual actions while learning in a school, which is understandable, but also should be addressed outside of school. Applying more to our community, Utah has a statewide policy of abstinence education. Abstinence education programs have been proven to be ineffective at delaying the initiation of sex and changing sexual risk behaviors. Let's look at what we can do about sex education. Education is key. It is important for each of us to become aware of the practices of sex. It is important that Utah Valley University integrates open conversation about sexual relations for all different cultures, societies, and individuals. People must learn what equally reciprocated sexual relations include. Increasing education in many different contexts will improve safe sex, which will decrease teen pregnancy, STIs, and decrease sexual violence. Open conversation about sex will decrease the taboo of sex. While living in Utah, I used to go to BYU, where there is even more stigma on talking about sex. It wasn't until I took an anatomy class that I felt more comfortable talking about sex and talking about the anatomy of the body. Though I was not personally experienced in the matter, I did feel like I could talk about it so that I could help to inform the people around me about the body and about the functions of the body. It is so important to have open conversations. Education of sex can be implemented in a class, in a club, anything. Really open conversation and expressing your own learning and your own teaching of others is very important. In my recent class of abnormal psychology, we talked about the health of sexual relations and how it implemented in sexual therapy. This was a very informative class that I was able to learn a lot about the needs that we as humans need to implement in our lives. Having limited sexual education leads to taboo and unsafe sex. Sex education is vital for people to have beneficial experiences with sex. So let's talk about what we can do to help with this. You can ask yourself, how thorough is your knowledge about sex? How can you improve in your knowledge? How might you reach out and talk to the people around you to inform or to ask questions from your family, from your friends? Don't be afraid to question what society has pushed on you. Thank you.